Welcome to the What's Important Now broadcast. In America today, we are witnessing a cultural shift. This is the show devoted to the battle for the soul of our country. Join our host, Tom Sears, as he explains the issues of our day and join the fight to bring values and morality back. Let's join Tom now as he shares what's important now.
And welcome inside of this edition of What's Important Now. I'm Tom Sears. Thanks for being a part of our program. You can email us at what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com, what'simportantnowradio@gmail.com. Find us online at what'simportantnowradio.com. Okay, so we're in the middle of a crisis. I mean, there's really no other way of looking at this. The coronavirus, COVID-19, is wreaking havoc not only on America, but also around the entirety of the world. There's a lot of things being said, a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety. As you are probably well aware, at times grocery store shelves have been completely emptied, and in many ways this looks apocalyptic. I should say in some ways. The panic level, without a doubt, is there. And so, you know, as Christians, we must decide how we approach this. And, you know, the first thing I want to say is that a lot of Americans who are Christians are fighting over things like cancellations and shutting down services. Now, this past Sunday at our church, we had church. What I did was I implemented some common sense approaches. I minimized the amount of time we were at the church, and it turns out that's not going to be enough. The federal government, our president, has announced within the last week that there should be no gatherings of more than 10 people. And according to the book of Romans, chapter 13, we are to honor and obey those who rule over us, because according to the Bible, they have been placed by God. And so it does, in fact, bring about very difficult circumstances and situations. And so the first thing I would say is take it easy on the pastors. Take it easy. You have to look at it this way. Pastors and world leaders and our national leaders, this is unprecedented. We have never walked in this territory before. You know, and as a pastor, I can tell you that my focus is to make sure that the people of my congregation and their families remain safe and healthy to the best of my ability. There's things I can't control, but the things I can control, like listening to what our president says, what the CDC is saying, and obeying that, those are the things I can control. So it's just tough times right now, ladies and gentlemen, and I've got a lot of stuff I want to get into, and you know, the coronavirus is not a respecter of persons. You know, the studies are saying that it is deadly for elderly people, but we're also finding that that's not always the case. I forget the country that the average death or the age of death from the coronavirus was in the 20s, like 22 to 29 or something like that. So it's unpredictable, which begs the question, what in the world is going on? Now, I don't want to sound super spiritual, but there's a couple things I want to share with you. And it's a side of me that I don't typically share on What's Important Now. I am very straightforward, as you know. I try to be very biblical and very historical. But there's a side of me I don't share. And I'm going to kind of share a little bit of that. And this is very vulnerable for me. And I don't say this to cause panic. I say this to bring awareness. Because if what I'm saying is accurate, then, well, it's something I definitely should share. And you'll choose to believe what you believe, and I get that. And I'm not going to hold anything against anyone. You know, if you want to say, hey, this guy's crazy, that's fine. Like I've said many times, I've been called worse. So don't worry about that. Like, seriously, don't worry about it. But ever since I was a child, I have been sort of drawn towards, biblical end times, eschatology. And in many ways, I have not held the same beliefs as what was taught to me. And let me explain without going into great detail. I'm talking about when the rapture of the church takes place. Rapture, by the way, a word not found in the Bible. When that happens, we know all the various theories of the pre-tribulation and the mid-trib and post-trib and all these different things. And I'm not getting into any of that. It's the point of me saying all this is that I've always been drawn to end times things. I don't have a script here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to share my heart. And as you know, if you've been a listener to this program, I have said it more times than I can count, that we live in a country that has no value or respect for life. And so I'm praying the other night, and I'm like, Lord, this is causing a panic. And, my hope is that this will draw people closer to you. And I felt something so strongly within me, and the words self-preservation came to my mind. And when you think of self-preservation, you're thinking, you want to live, you want to stay alive. But this is not what I felt the Lord was saying to me. I believe that He laid on my heart that in America, we're not trying to preserve life as in living. But the panic that we're seeing right now is that life as we have lived it will change, meaning we want to preserve our way of life. The goodies, the comforts, the joys, all the things that in many ways have become our God. They have become an idol. They have become more important than our Heavenly Father. And ladies and gentlemen, again, our programs are all over the internet. You can go and listen, and you can know that I've said all these things prior to the coronavirus. But I've always been drawn to end times, so I've always studied it and I've prayed about it, and there's still a lot I have no idea. Like I think a lot of people out there that are like, this is what's going to happen. I'm not going to say they're wrong. I'm just going to say they don't really know. They think they know, but they don't really know. I think there's a lot we don't know. Anyway. So something happened this past week that really, really troubled me. Over the past year, I have been having, you can call it a dream or a vision or whatever you want to call it. I was awake, so I guess it can't be a dream, but in prayer and honestly, just in just everyday life, just not even thinking upon anything, I've seen, like in my mind's eye, these waves. And it's crazy how the Lord has revealed these waves to me, because these waves, when first revealed, I interpreted it as waves of His Spirit, meaning, a powerful outpouring of His Spirit, an increase in His move, and so on and so forth. But I had something happen this past week where I saw the exact same waves, but I got some clarification on something. And the clarification is this, that the waves, when they hit, how the wave affects you will be determined by where you're positioned. If I could elaborate just a little more. Meaning, if your feet are established on the rock, then the wave is going to be refreshing. The wave is going to bring about spiritual renewal. But if you're not, the wave is going to have devastating consequences. And so I don't even fully understand all of that. I think I understand it, But I have often found the things I think I understand, sometimes I don't. But as I continue to think upon this and pray about this, I see a bigger wave behind, and let me just say this, I believe the first wave that I saw is exactly what we're experiencing right now. And ladies and gentlemen, the wave is not that big. I mean, according to what I saw. But there's a second wave, and I can tell you that's all I've seen are two waves. I've seen a small wave and a bigger wave that follows. I have no information on that second wave. I have no idea. I just know that it's bigger, and it's going to reach farther, and the impact is going to be greater. That's literally all that I know. Now, why do I bring this up on what's important now? Well, tuck that away for a second. Just tuck the wave away for a second. Let me add one more thing, and then I'll explain. So another thing that God has been speaking to me literally for years was about a shaking coming. A shaking to our way of life. As a matter of fact, you can go back to the archives of the sermons that I have preached over the last 15 years at New Beginnings Church, and you will hear me say that often. That God is calling to his church to get ready because a shaking is coming. You know, the Bible says that judgment begins at the house of God. Everyone wants to look at the circumstances around us and they want to say, God is really getting after the sinners. I don't believe that. There's nothing in me that believes that. I think that judgment begins at the house of God. Now, with that being said, so as to not to confuse anyone, there is an element of judgment in everything that we're seeing. So I've talked about a shaking. As a matter of fact, I have been as specific as to say that the economy in the U.S. was not as secure as we thought it was. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to go on the record and say this because this is what I really believe. And let me say this. Let every man be a liar, and that includes me, but let God be the truth, okay? But I'm going to say that I believe with everything in me that this economic storm that is being caused by a virus that we can't see, meaning we can't get our hands on it to defeat it, it's an invisible enemy, the economic storm is going to pass. I believe that. Because part of the waves is going to be that economic teardown. So the economy is going to come back, but there's no way you can continue to allow the national debt to rise. There's no way you can continue to bail out businesses and even Americans, which I don't know what other choices they have right now. They're talking about sending money out to every American. I don't know what else you can do. And again, I'm just going to trust that they know what they're doing. But regardless, that is going to have an effect. There are consequences to that. And we saw that after September the 11th, 2001. It could be argued that the economy never did bounce back until 3.5 years ago or 2.5 years ago. And we can say policies of a president, President Obama, President Bush, or President Trump, but the reality of it is that these things have consequences, and they're lasting consequences. And even though things can come back, the foundation's not as secure as it was before the wave hit, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And I hope I'm making sense. There's so many things running through my mind. So, anyway, I guess the point I'm trying to make is Governor Cuomo from New York, and I listened to his entire interview, or not interview, but his press conference yesterday, which when you get this will, be some days ago. But anyway, I was pleased to hear him talk about the cooperation that's taking place between him and President Trump's administration. I think that's great. I am seeing an element of Americans coming together to fight a common enemy, and that's what we've done. That's what Americans do. Okay? There's a movie. I don't even know if I've ever seen the movie, but the name of the movie, I remember Julia Roberts played in it, and it would have been way back in the 90s. And I think it was titled Sleeping with the Enemy. And this was not a part of what I was going to talk about today, but it just came to me, so here we go. Sleeping with the enemy. So we're fighting, and we're coming together to fight an enemy that we don't realize is ourselves. Now, hear me. The coronavirus is the coronavirus. It is what it is, right? It's in many ways deadly, and it's definitely crippling global economies. I mean, everything's shutting down. There's a consequence to that. But when you take a look at, when I say sleeping with the enemy, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that in part what we're experiencing is there's no way, and I've said this, there's no way God can continue to bless a country that continues to shed the blood of innocent babies. So, we are praying for an end to the coronavirus. We are praying for an end to all these negative things that are happening in our society, when those of us who believe understand that God is a just God. He is not a respecter of persons. He hates the shedding of innocent blood, and I could give you a list of things he hates. The fact is, everything I've been preaching on this program is we have left the God that made us great. And there's a consequence to that. Now, I want to be very clear. Am I saying that God is raining down coronavirus on everyone? I am not saying that. I am not saying that at all. But I will go as far as to say that in everything that happens in this world, for me, I believe in a sovereign God who's in complete control. He allows it or he causes it. There's no in between. So it's hit our doorstep because he either allowed it or he caused it, because he's sovereign and he's God. And there's a rule book. It's called his holy word, and we refuse to follow it. So he's a good father who allows correction. But this correction, if that's what this is, I'll be ridiculed for this statement. I'll be ridiculed for this program, but I've thought about it for several days, and I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to tell you. The thing that made me come out and say all this was the Governor Cuomo press conference that I watched, because he said two things. One, he talked about a wave, and he drew a wave. He had a graphic of a wave. And I thought it was interesting that what I have been seeing, I then saw coming out of the mouth of a governor who signed maybe the nation's most egregious, despicable abortion law to date. And then he followed up with, he was talking about a snow globe, and he said, you know how you take a snow globe and you turn it upside down and you shake it and stuff flying everywhere? He said it's like, and you can go back and watch the press conference, and you'll see I'm telling you the truth. He said it's like someone has picked us up and shook us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something. God is a merciful God. His word is true. He is in control. I am not spreading panic. What I am spreading is an awareness that if we've ever needed him, it's now. It's now. And this is going to pass. I believe that with everything in me. And I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective. This is going to pass. In many ways, life will go back to normal. Just like after 9/11, life went back to normal. After it happened, church attendance goes to an all-time high because people recognize, oh man, we're in trouble. But we have short-term memory. And our gods are our pleasures. We're panicked over self-preservation. We're panicked over whether or not we're going to be able to keep the life that we've been enjoying. And ladies and gentlemen, what I want to tell you is, and I hope I'm wrong, that based off of what I've seen, this is a small wave. There's a bigger one coming. I don't know the amount of time between them. I don't know any of that. I don't know anything. I'm just sharing with you. And the reason I'm sharing it with you is because I really felt that when I turned on the television yesterday, I had a choice of what I could watch. And I decided to watch Governor Cuomo, who is not a person I would typically watch, just to be honest with you. And the two things that I've been saying, he said. and it made me certain that I had to tell you today. So here's the question, because I don't have a great deal of time here. And if you have a question, don't assume that I've said anything. If you have a question, what's important now radio at gmail.com. Email me. I will explain exactly what I'm trying to say. And I hope I've done that. I hope that you understand what I'm trying to say. I just feel like it's time. The games are over. It's time. It's time to get back to our Father. It's time to go home. We've been slopping around in the mud. We've been eating with the pigs, and it's time to go home. He's our only hope. You know, I told my church this past Sunday, all of my eggs are in his basket. There's nothing else for me. He keeps me, or I'm not kept. It's that simple. But I want to read you something, and you're seeing a lot of this on social media. I shared this with my church last Sunday, and I want you to hear this. And I'm going to read from the Passion Translation. I just love how it says it. And this is Psalms 91. It says, when you sit enthroned under the shadow of Shaddai, which is from a Hebrew root word, God of the mountain, God the destroyer of enemies, God the self-sufficient one, God the nurturer of babies, God the Almighty. You are hidden in the strength of God Most High. He's the hope that holds me, and the stronghold to shelter me, the only God for me, and my great confidence. He will rescue you from every hidden trap of the enemy, and he will protect you from false accusation and any deadly curse. His massive arms are wrapped around you, protecting you. You can run under his covering of majesty and hide. His arms of faithfulness are a shield, keeping you from harm. You will never worry about an attack of demonic forces at night, nor have to fear a spirit of darkness coming against you. Don't fear a thing. Whether by night or by day, demonic danger will not trouble you, nor will the powers of evil launched against you. For God will keep you safe and secure. They won't lay a hand on you. Even in a time of disaster, with thousands and thousands being killed, you will remain unscathed and unharmed. You will be a spectator as the wicked perish in judgment, for they will be paid back for what they have done. When we live our lives within the shadow of the God Most High, our secret hiding place, we will always be shielded from harm. How then could evil prevail against us, or disease infect us? God sends angels with special orders to protect you wherever you go, defending you from all harm. If you walk into a trap, they'll be there for you and keep you from stumbling. You'll even walk unharmed among the fiercest powers of darkness, trampling every one of them beneath your feet. For here is what the Lord has spoken to me. Because you have delighted in me as my great lover, I will greatly protect you. I will set you in a high place, safe and secure before my face. I will answer your cry for help every time you pray, and you will find and feel my presence, even in your time of pressure and trouble. I will be your glorious hero and give you a feast. You will be satisfied with a full life and with all that I do for you will enjoy the fullness of my salvation. Again, that's Psalms 91 from the Passion Translation. Very clear that God is saying, listen, if you're mine, I'm going to keep you. And that's what I want you to hear out of everything I've said today. Do I believe that what we are experiencing is, at least in part, judgment? And the answer to that would be yes, I do. His mercy and his grace, I believe, is going to get us through this. The question is, where do you stand? I asked the question on a recent broadcast. If the former and the latter rain do not converge on us, if we're laying it up for another generation, are we okay with that? And I would pose this question today. If all of our best laid plans and how we think everything's going to go, if it doesn't happen, do we still love him? Will we still serve him? You know, you think about the children of Israel in Egypt and the plagues all around them. They were told to apply the blood. Ladies and gentlemen, apply the blood. Seek the face of God. I think we as a collective body of people need to repent for the blood we have shed. The procedure of abortion has done nothing but get worse and worse, to the point where we in America talk about allowing children to be born and then allowing mothers to make decisions as to whether or not the baby should continue to live. These are real conversations that are happening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. It's time. You know, as I say that, I think back to how many times on this program I have said that exact same thing. It's time. It's time. It's time. Now, I'm a firm believer that God doesn't do anything without warning us first, and the warnings have been out there loud and clear. Now, if what I'm saying or if what I'm seeing is in fact from the Lord, and again, let every man be a liar, including me, but let God be the truth, then this wave is going to come and go. But it's not the last wave we're going to see, and the next one's going to hit even harder. The earth is groaning for a move of God. And, unfortunately, many churches are asleep. The fact is, churches are closing down, and this is going to offend some people, this next statement I'm going to make. But churches are closing down because of the coronavirus. And they'll be just as dead as they have been for years. Because it's become a social function. It's become a social club. It's about what programs we can put out there for everyone else. It is not about drawing near to God. We need to draw near to Him. If we've ever needed Him, it's now. I'm going to close my program out today. I'm going to play my daughter, Brianna. Her album is just about to release, and when it does, I will let all of you know. But I'm going to play a song that she wrote called Near. It's actually her single, and it is the title of her album. You'll not get to hear all of it because I will run out of time, but it just talks about not being in fear because He's near. I think it's very fitting for what we're going through today. Hold on to Jesus and do not let go. Fight the good fight of faith. Contend for the faith. There is a cause. It does matter, and it is important now. May God bless you and keep you. Take care.
So